Welcome to Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and inspire joy. Be empowered to balance your mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health while providing mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. If Joy, and I'm here to help you transform life's challenges into opportunities for joy. Let's begin the journey together. Hello, welcome to episode 136, Align
Wow.
for Joy. Yes, we are aligning for joy, awakening your calling, purpose, passion, and vision. And I have here Bianca Ariel, founder and chief strategy officer, Recalibrated Vision TM. Thank you. Welcome for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited.
Of course. So very excited. We're talking about purpose here, calling, passion, vision, all the things. Just a few weeks ago, I had a guest here and we were talking about career reset. And so it's very important for us to think about like our vision, our passion. Are we called? Well, we're all called to do something for a purpose, but are we following that calling? And as people know who are aware of the Enjoyno, it is the wellness journal that I published about 18 months ago, and it helps us get through our mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health. That aspirational health is our aspirations. Are you actually cultivating your aspirational health and wellness and focusing on that? So I love having people come on the platform to talk about our calling, purpose, vision, and are we following that? So, Bianca, tell us more about who you are and how you got into what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, well, first of all, I want to say congratulations for hitting 136 episodes.
Thank
I
you.
mean, you are in the top 1.0001% of podcasters who
Oh,
actually are consistent and really can hit that number. So,
nice.
thank you so much for your shared work.
Thank
And the second
you.
thing is, before I get started, is enjoy your real last name.
Oh, you said, "Is it my last name?"
Yeah.
So my name is Nina Joy Mena. Mena's my last
Ah,
name, so N Nina Joy. So it's my first name
okay.
and my middle name.
Enjoy, that's beautiful. So that's there's a connection. I love that. I
Mhm,
just was so
mhm.
curious. Yeah, so you know, through the work that I do now, I know that I was destined to be in some type of functionality around teaching. A lot of the times when we really do the work to really figure out what we were destined to do,
Mhm.
we are reminded of those things that we aspired to do and have before life got to us, right? And
Yeah.
influence and all of those things. So
Mhm.
essentially, every function that I've done in my career has evolved around teaching, which is what I'm truly passionate about. So my
Yeah.
background essentially started in on the clinical path. So I was influenced to go into healthcare. Quickly realized during rotations that I was not cut out for this. I transitioned into working for a career center and helping place allied health students in their internships and executing
Mm.
contracts between the hospitals and private medical offices as well as with the school
Mhm.
and kind of monitoring the students on their internships and then making sure they're placed after
Nice.
graduation. And that's where I kind of fell in love with business development, sales, and all of those things. Both of my colleagues had MBAs, so at the time I was like, well, let me go ahead and get my MBA. And then I
Gotcha.
relocated to, thank you, to Los Angeles, where I grew up most of my life, and I'm from Florida. And
Mhm.
started a career in the pharmaceutical industry. So
Mhm.
I worked in neuroscience, promoting a neuroscience
Ooh.
portfolio all over Southern California. It
Mhm.
was extremely fulfilling position. We don't grow up thinking like I'm going to be in pharmaceutical sales, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the education,
Mhm.
working with physicians and other stakeholders, the complex decision making and things of that nature. Won President's Club my first year, and it was an extremely rewarding team, rewarding opportunity. And up to that point, I loved every single aspect of my career, and my whole
Okay.
goal was, "I'm gonna get an MBA, I'm gonna make 6 figures, we're gonna do the whole thing." And
Alright.
so yeah.
Start.
And so essentially, I kinda hit a plateau. Obviously, we transition into looking for better pay, better titles, and I transitioned to promote other portfolios,
Mhm.
and I realized something about me. Well, I can reflect on it now and articulate it effectively, but I realized I cannot promote anything that I truly do not believe in. So the moment
Yes.
that I not only expired
Mhm.
as far as my fulfillment level in my career, also professionally reaching the top of the ranks, and then really looking to my manager and not wanting to be in their position, I was like, okay, like,
Yeah.
what are we going to do now? And so I've been very future forward, and always kind of thinking about the future. So back in like 2017, 2018, when online media was really fresh, I
Mhm.
decided I was going to get a certification in online media marketing and open up my own consulting practice.
Mm.
And I realized that in the marketplace, there was an underserved market in healthcare, which was the holistic market, now integrative medicine and also functional medicine. And so my goal was really to help those physicians that were looking to open up their own independent practices,
Mhm.
really help them develop their online brands, teach them sales, teach them marketing, things of that
Mhm.
nature. And through that experience, I realized that a lot of what they were dealing with, not only from the logistical standpoint in building their business, but also mentally around
Yeah.
the resistance in actually transitioning into entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And that's where I started to implement career transition coaching in my practice. So
Oh.
now I work in tandem and offer career transition and business strategy for hiring
Hmm.
professionals who are transitioning into more aligned careers.
Ooh, I love it. Okay. And that's how you ended up reaching out for me to me, I mean, on
Yes.
LinkedIn, because that's what you look for. So that's pretty
Yes.
cool. I love
Yes.
it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, yes, yes. And so, I mean, a lot of times if you're gonna pivot in your career, you can reach some burnout or some fears and just not feeling like you can do this. And a lot of times with physicians, we're just used to like the office space and the one-on-one with the a patient, working in the hospital, but then entrepreneurship was like, "What? No, we're not supposed to do that." So it seems weird and strange for us to think that far. Do you how does that go how do you go about helping them with that transition when that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say like it's not it's just exposure, number 1. That's where it begins, right?
Mhm.
So you're in a container. We're all in a container. We all are experts for a reason, right? In our little bubble. So
Mhm.
it's really interesting to, how our brain works around the thought of the unknown, but we have the capabilities in learning and figuring it out, right? But the problem is that so far there was a path already laid out for us, right? So we had structure. So pretty much, especially with physicians, right? It's like this is what you do and this is the outcome. But when you're answering, especially when you're answering your calling, and we can get deeper into, God's purpose for us. But when we're answering things and we're creating paths that are not necessarily laid out for us, that's where it becomes really scary because you have to create it on your own. Right.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I use not only tactics because I've also worked as a strategist for major Fortune 500 companies. So I have
Mhm.
a logistical like strategic mindset, but I help create the principles. So I've created the principles that are really, staple in the transition journey.
Mhm.
And then we leverage each of our clients' expertise and apply them under each principle so that we can
Yeah.
map out that journey. So that's vision, establishing a clear, unique vision, belief slash becoming, right? What are the beliefs that are getting in the way, right? And who are you?
Good.
Who are you becoming, right? Who are you
Mhm.
starting to become? And you may not have the awareness or you may not be able to articulate it right away, but we do
Yeah.
the work to really kind of not label it, we don't like that,
Mhm.
but just kind of identify, what that means for them specifically, worth, right? So, it could be worth in your career transition, like, how much you should how much you should have in salary or in your pricing, what is
Yes.
it worth for
You
you,
charging
right?
enough.
Yes, visibility, right? How are you going to get out there and share this vision with the world, right? And how that applies for whatever transition you're going through. Then we have strategy. What's the strategy that we
Oh,
can put in
yeah.
place, right?
Lot of really
Giving you
good
some
stuff.
more clarity and direction. And then systems, any systems we can put in place, what's the execution process, and then most importantly, what's going to be the consistency and accountability. So those are the proven principles that we use. And depending on what the transition looks like, we'll kind of map it out for each of our clients.
Oh, that's good. Definitely need strategy, purpose, vision, worth, all those things.
Hmm.
So let's talk about why this is important. Like, what happens if we don't have this? If we don't have a vision, we don't have a strategy, we don't have a purpose, we don't know it. What happens? I mean, it's a mental health podcast. Usually, you get burnt out and some things like that. What have you noticed in some of your clients when they don't have that?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we have to understand why, right? So what's going on here? And I learned even since a childhood is like I need to understand why things happen, right?
Hmm.
I've been the type of
Hmm.
person like I'm going to question why, right? And so when I look at things that are really kind of high level, some people have called it like woo woo or what have you, but when we look at
Yeah.
terms like vision,
Yeah.
purpose, passion, calling, all of those are in alignment with one another. So
Hmm.
vision is what gives us direction, right?
Hmm.
Purpose is what motivates us. Passion is what gets us excited, and calling is God's responsibility, right? And so when any of these things are out of alignment, then that's why we start to experience some of these feelings of unfulfillment. Even I was depressed and seeking, a therapist trying to help me figure out my next life's direction. I mean, these are very huge decisions in our lives. And,
Yeah.
these have to be thought through properly. And we're not going to really see the path clearly. And so when we don't take the time to really kind of create this
You have to.
structure and this path for ourselves, we get locked in this mental gel and we feel
Mm.
as though, there is no direction, no support, no hope, and we're just
Yeah.
living in what I call a loop.
Going through the
And
motions.
it's yes, and we just go through the motions, and that's what leads to an unfulfilling life, especially in regards to our careers.
Yeah, I have patients who say that. I mean, just this week, a patient got a new job. It's like the best type of job ever, a pay increase, completely remote, unlimited PTO. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
And the person was just like, but I'm just unfulfilled. I just don't really know where I'm going with my life. And that's the thing, like, you could be doing everything right, you're physically fit, you got the job that seems to be great on paper, but if you don't know your vision, your calling, your purpose, all these things, and there's still a lack of fulfillment or feeling of being lost or feeling lost that can come. So that's why that's important.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what happens. So when we first reach a plateau in our careers, the first thing we look for is another opportunity. But what we qualify is probably going to be something similar to what we're already doing. Sure, we can find something
Mhm,
with better pay, a better title. Maybe you can
mhm.
kind of get an increase. You're going to be essentially on the right track. So it's very rare that you're gonna transition into a similar or a lateral role and become fulfilled. It's very fleeting, right? It's something where you have to really take the time to consider, like, okay, if I'm unfulfilled now, like usually when we're moving up, we don't know, we're not unfulfilled. We're excited. Like I'm getting promoted, like I'm
Mhm,
moving up, like this is
mhm.
what I want. But if we're like, okay, wait a minute, like I'm not enjoying my everyday, I'm not in love with what I'm doing anymore. Not to say you have to change your career or you have to do something
Yeah,
drastically
the whole
different.
thing.
It just has maybe though you're in the same function, but in the way that you're delivering it or in the way that you're
Mhm,
moving through your
mhm.
purpose has to change. So that happens even when you find something fulfilling. But also, so first and foremost, when we make these lateral positions, that we have a sense of joy, right? Because we get the position, but then that same feeling comes back up again.
It goes
So that's when
away.
we know like
Yeah.
that's not the right answer, right?
Mhm.
Another thing happens is
Good.
when we answer our call and we do something, or let me say this, or when we're doing something that is not within our purpose and we're doing something that looks good for somebody else, and we start to follow somebody else's path or another path that someone wants for
Yeah.
us. Even though we have all of the qualifications, we have the skill set, like that's why we get put in these positions, right? But
Mhm,
if it's
mhm.
not
You
speaking to your
qualified.
soul,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, if it's not speaking
it's
to
your
your
soul.
soul, that's where you have to make a difficult decision, right? And
Mhm.
that is where the real work begins.
And that's how I got into academics. Somebody told me like, "Oh, this would be a great idea. Maybe you should go to work for Morehouse." And Morehouse is great. Morehouse School of Medicine. I'm helping black people, black professionals, black, black, black. And so I'm just like, "Okay, cool." And it's still a great institution. I will never like throw it under the bus, but just and I will put my 150,000% into whatever I do. So I'm going to work hard and do all those things. So I felt that because I was working hard and doing all the things that this is my dream job and I'm helping people. Yeah, so it was great stuff, but then there was just something missing. I felt like restricted. And, you're
Mm,
talking about going up the ranks. It's like you do assistant, professor, then associate professor, then full professor. And I'm like, "Okay, I gotta check these boxes and go up the ranks." But the stuff I had to check off wasn't fulfilling. I didn't wanna do
right.
research. I don't wanna publish in a academic paper. I didn't wanna do that. And
Mhm.
so when my community mental health, position came about, I'm like, "Well, that over there looks more fun and fulfilling." So that's when I did that, and that's when I started the podcast because you just don't feel free when it's like this a job that makes you feel restricted. And again, it's not me changing my whole career, it's changing an aspect of a psychiatrist. So it's definitely important and being able to feel empowered to just say no and choose you and what you really want because that can be hard too. Feeling like you
Yeah.
can't make that move.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where we all feel stuck is like, what, not only can we make the move, but like, what do we make the move to? Right. And then
Mhm.
we have this fear of like, what if it doesn't work out? Like
Mhm.
we're looking for
It's always the
certainty.
case.
And yeah. And you have to be comfortable with just going out and trying it. That's why they say it's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, I mean, yes, you are going to have to consider sacrifice. What are you willing to release? Some people aren't willing to release certain things and there are things connected to that, right? So you have to do the work to figure out, like, okay, what is actually worth this process? And
Mhm.
I haven't met anybody who has taken a leap of faith and regretted it because you can
Mm.
always go back. And sometimes when you go back just to remember why you left, right? In a lot of different situations. So it's almost about like what is worth me letting go of in order to make this happen. A lot of things that we are holding on to, are things that don't even fulfill us. Like those are the things
Yeah.
holding us down, like the house, the car, sometimes the relationships, sometimes the titles, the
Mhm.
pay, so you have to really kind of just take into consideration like where
Mhm.
you at are where you're at in your life and what are you willing to sacrifice to really make this happen
Yeah.
and figure
It's
out what is
sacrifice.
going to bring you that joy. Yeah.
Yeah, sacrifice and self-grace, giving yourself grace and not, beating yourself up about something. So when do you feel like I feel like you know your calling because you teach it and all that. When do you feel like you figured it out, like what your calling was?
Yeah. So a lot of people may say, like, I didn't choose this, like, this chose me, right?
Mhm.
So when I was considering making a switch, like when you're about to leave your career, you're unhappy in your career, especially when you're in a high earning position, like they call it golden handcuffs, but for a reason, right?
Mm.
It's, like,
Yeah.
really difficult to figure out what it is you're going to do next. Where do you go from
Mhm.
here? A lot of times that is entrepreneurship, right? A lot of the elements that I did enjoy about my career, the freedom and this
Yeah.
I wasn't I loved my career. It just got to the point where I was not expanding anymore. I was living
Yeah.
the same day over and
Mm.
over again. I'm
Mm.
also a very avid traveler, right? So I've been to like 40 different countries. It was my dream. Like that was my driver for a long time is to have freedom and autonomy to go
Yeah.
see the world,
Yep.
right? And so I was just looking for a way out. And so but every time, every second that I stayed in this job that I was so unhappy in, the more I started to expand my mind and really focus on what it is that my soul really wanted to do because I couldn't figure it out.
Mhm.
So I started with what I knew is what the consulting and things of that nature. And then I say, when I started to work with
Yeah.
people in a business strategy and coaching capacity, I started to ask for permission to move beyond boundaries with our conversations and really start to tap in to what was going on with them mentally. Now, of course, I'm trained to know the difference between coaching and therapy and things of that nature. But a lot of the
Mhm,
things that they
mhm.
were suffering through and the things that they weren't willing to give up to actually accomplish what it is that we were designing for them from a business perspective is the things that were
Yeah.
actually holding them back, not a strategy. Like that you can go on AI and ChatGPT and figure out 1, 2, 3, this is what I could do because there's so
Exactly.
many different strategies. It's all in
Yeah.
the execution, right?
Mhm.
So there was a reason why high performers were not moving forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with like the limiting beliefs, the resistance, and the letting
Yeah.
go of everything that they've built. And you're not letting go, you're
Mhm.
evolving, you're expanding. And there's so many different I actually had a spiritual awakening as well. So to answer
Yeah.
your question, God put on my heart that I needed to help other people transition their careers into
Yeah.
callings. Like, that was what God put on my heart, and how you know it's your calling is it's something that comes back to you over and over again. That's why it's called
Confirmation.
calling. Yes. It's
Yeah,
like every ti you can't run away
positive.
from it. Yes. Every time you
Yeah.
try to do something else and you're trying it's like this thing that constantly comes up in your head over and over and over and again. So if someone's like, "I don't know what to do," let me tell you, I've never worked with a professional who didn't already know what they wanted to do next. Never. If
Yeah.
we look back in our calls, the first session of us kinda really mapping out their vision or some of the suggestions that they had, they named what it is that they were looking to do, and they're just looking for that confirmation or,
Mhm.
that affirmation, the clarity, the direction, but most people know exactly what it is that they wanna do. They know.
Ooh, it's a matter of soul searching and trying to figure that out. And a
It's
lot of
there.
times people equate calling and purpose to God and higher power, to faith. You've mentioned that. Others have mentioned faith on this podcast, and you really can't always get away from faith when you're talking about joy. And so for people who don't have a higher power, like how do you teach calling? How do you teach them to listen to their soul and try to figure out a vision out of the calling when they don't quite have a higher power that they believe in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Most of the people that I come in contact with are visionaries and essentially. So you don't necessarily
Yeah.
I mean, I can't relate. So I know that I'm a co-creator and that God is a part of my journey.
Yeah, same.
Um, but most of the people that I work with are visionaries. And so essentially they've
Yeah,
done a lot of the soul searching themselves
yeah.
and maybe they connect it within, right? Because God is also inside of us. So I would say it's doing the work to get to know yourself and to be honest, taking time to
Know yourself.
not seek help outside of yourself and take time to get to know yourself.
Yeah, whether it's a higher power or just a
Yeah,
coach or something. It doesn't have
yeah,
to be
yeah.
a
Just get
god
to
or
know
something like that.
yourself.
Yeah, getting to
Mhm.
know yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like for people who believe in God, it's helpful to have God to help you get to know yourself. If you don't believe in God, I still think the self-reflection and self-awareness is good. And when you said visionary, it made me think of what I did. I think I was in my 20s, maybe in college, but I think I was around 25 because I was trying to picture myself 25 years later when I'm 50, and I'm still not 50 yet. So this is kind of creepy. But I wrote a letter to myself. I pretended I was my future self, my
Mhm.
future 50-year-old self, and I wrote a letter, and I told the 25-year-old self what I was doing. I said, "This is what I'm doing in my career. This is the kind of man I'm married to. This." So I said all these great things, the sky is the limit type things. And so through those years after writing that, I'm like, well, this is what I'm looking for. This is my vision. It was almost like a strategic plan, right? So I
Yeah,
wrote it
yeah,
out, and this is what I aimed for. And when I go back to it, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
whether a higher power helps you with that, or not, having something written down and really reflecting on what you really wanna do and going after it.
Yeah, and it's and reminding yourself, right? Some of
Mhm.
these things that we've already laid out for us is because it's already ours. Like, you wrote it down because you already had that sense of feeling of like, this is what my vision looks like. You already had that, and you were literally putting pen to paper, which is why journaling is so important.
Yeah.
And I just had like this like vision come to mind when you said that, and it's like, I'm also gonna do the work to thank my former self, right?
Oh,
Because a lot of things that I said this to my partner the other day, I was like, "I am so thankful that that young 25-year-old girl took that chance
yeah.
because, like, I was so scared, but I wanna thank
Uh-huh.
her now because this is where we
Mhm.
are today," you know?
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I usually say your future self will thank you know, because based on
Yes.
what you're doing now, she will thank
Yes.
you for what you're
Yes,
doing
yeah.
or what you stopped doing or the thing the leap of faith that you took. She thanks you because she's living
Yes.
that life.
Exactly. And so for your listeners, like, go back. A lot of us have like the visions that we had for ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And it's okay if sometimes we had a vision for ourselves and maybe it didn't manifest in the way that you intended to, right? But look at the
Yeah.
other elements. A lot of what is like a lot of what is created joy and abundance in my life today is not what I thought was going to be a part of the vision. It really is. So all of the elements of joy and abundance and peace are there, and freedom and autonomy and all of those different things depending on how you define those things. They're there, but they don't look like exactly what I thought it was going to look like. So
Yeah.
also be open to kind of a different approach,
Mhm.
or open to things looking a little bit differently than you imagine. And that's when
Mhm.
it goes back to like, how do you also want to feel? How do you want to live?
Yeah.
Those are the most important things versus focusing on the external,
Yeah.
materialistic things, the validation, all of
Yeah.
those things.
'Cause you can't
Mhm.
predict everything, you can't plan everything. It is good to be patient and flexible, right? Because if you want
Mhm.
exactly something to happen and it doesn't, then you're really getting anxious and frustrated and depressed. And you kinda alluded to something I was gonna ask, sometimes our original vision no longer fits the person we've become. So how do we give ourselves permission to redefine success without feeling like we failed?
Yes, that's a great question. So a lot of times our vision well, here's what actually happens.
Mhm.
You hit these markers, you set out a vision for yourself, which
Yeah.
essentially are these like success markers, and you check them
Mhm.
off. And then you realize, like, this is not giving me the feeling that I thought. Right. And so it's part of that is like letting go of like holding yourself to these success metrics and allowing yourself to flow and move through life the way that you need to. Right. Because
Mhm.
that essentially, it doesn't mean that you don't have goals or objectives, but
Mhm.
also, I've gotten to the point where I'm focused on building habits and systems and figuring out how I want to move through the
Yeah.
day, figuring out what type of clients make me feel good. Like those, like slowly but surely, like those goals and objectives that I used to
Mhm.
like live by in my
Yeah.
former life are
Mhm.
slowly fading away. Like how much money I wanted to make. Like I'm starting to be a little bit more intentional. Like, what do you want this money for? Like, you're working to get all of this money. Like, what is it for? Like, can you do the things that you enjoy doing? Like, is this enough for you? Getting more intentional with it and removing some of the, because that's also constricting. Like,
Yeah.
what if you're putting
Yeah.
a cap on the amount of money you're making, right?
Exactly.
So it's like more about building habits and systems and
Mhm.
building a daily lifestyle that feels good for you and the
That's
way that you
good.
want to live, and then living with what is enough, in order for you to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish, and not just going after these like sky and the pie like goals where it doesn't really do anything for you. You'll hit them and then what,
Mm.
or you have to do things that you don't really want to do in order to accomplish them. And then once
Yeah.
you get there, so once you reach the point where you checked off those success metrics and then you realize like doing it this way is not going to make me happy, then you'll start to map out your life a little bit differently. But here's the thing, do what works for you. Do what works for
Yeah.
you. Like that's the only way that it's going to work is if you're mapping out things that work for you.
For sure. I mean, sometimes change is important, being flexible, less rigid, as I mentioned, and being more spontaneous. I don't know if you ever taken was it the Myers-Briggs, personality test? I know when I
Mhm.
first took it, I think I was an undergrad when I first took it, and I was a I no, oh god, not an I, an E. E is for extrovert, but
Uh-huh.
ENF J, I think?
Uh-huh.
Whatever, the J was like a person who plans, just like everything is planned. I kinda needed to do that in med school especially, but when I took it
Yeah.
again sometime after med school, I was no longer a J, I was a P. So I think perceiving was like somebody who's just more like flexible,
Yeah.
go with the flow, maybe a little bit impulsive, but,
Yeah.
willing to like just do things. And sometimes it's okay to change and be willing to take on opportunities that you may not have been willing to take on ahead of time because you might miss that opportunity. So it's about that and also knowing what to say no to, as it is good to
Mhm.
say yes, but then also knowing what to
Yes.
say no to.
Yeah, I like your perspective of like, around change because it is true. Like, if you don't
Mhm.
want to repeat the same year that you had last year, you do need to change.
Sometimes I
But
do.
that's why you keep the core for in focus. Is like the foundation is never going to change, right? And these are the things that are part of you this is what motivates you. This is what excites you. This is your calling. This is the vision that you have. And so once you have that in place, that's what gives you the direction. And then you're free to play around any of this, right? It's like, I'm going to switch up the way that I'm I'm doing this, it's more about eliminating really than adding. And I'm gonna do things differently and I'm open to that, right? And
Yeah,
the more you practice it, the easier it gets to really kind of
always.
get into alignment with it. Yes.
Yeah, like any coping strategy or any therapeutic self-care routine, more you practice it, the easier it will get, always. So we've been talking about the core 4 this whole time, calling, purpose, passion, vision. What would you say the first step that someone could do today if they're just, like, listening to this like, "Ooh, I would this sounds like me. I need to pivot. I need to change. I feel complacent." What's the first thing they could do that's practical?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that you can do is, well, it depends on where you're at. So
Yeah.
if you ever feel called to do something, like that's usually where a great place to start. If you've always felt called to do something and you've never take action on it, this is
Mhm.
your time. So if you're like, okay, like I've always felt called, I work with physicians. So I'm
Right.
working in a traditional healthcare system. I feel called to open up a functional medicine practice. The first step would be what? Right. And sometimes that's where people get stuck. Like I was on I actually had a client just like this. We got on the call and I'm like, okay, so this is what you want to do. So, and she's like, yeah, I think the first step would be I'm gonna get my certification at IFM. Okay.
Mm.
And why haven't you done that? She's like, I have no
Mm.
idea. No idea. So think about, okay,
Yeah.
you have a calling, you've named the first step. What's going on between the calling and the first step? Because most of the time it's you don't have to make a major, you don't have to leave your job and put in your 2 weeks notice to take this
Yeah.
first step.
Yeah.
What is getting
Correct.
between this first step? A lot of people will be like, oh,
Time?
clarity, direction, yeah, time. Like, but is that an excuse? Because especially with high performers, we make time for whatever we wanna make time for. Like,
Ooh, that's why
we
you're a
make
high
time for
performer
whatever we
'cause you
want.
have yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
make it
So you
happen.
make time for whatever you so what is holding you back, right? And
Yeah.
that's why sometimes support and guidance is a part of this process because we do the work to kind of really figure that out. Sometimes you do need the accountability, sometimes you do need the
Yeah.
direction, but there's something that's just preventing you from moving forward. And most of the time it's lack of certainty and fear.
Ah, yeah, and with that certain I mean, you also mentioned clarity, many people are praying for clarity about their calling, but what if it's already showing up in their chaos that they have? So how can we actually recognize our calling even when life just feels messy?
It's again, it's something that, first of all, only you know, and it already exists. So, you know, chaos is where my calling was the most potent. So, when I was in most depressed, uncertain place in my life, that
Mm,
is when it was calling me the most, right? So, in those
yeah,
dark times, I mean, I don't to look back, it's like, I mean, I wanna give myself grace, of course, but to look back, I'm like, I don't the amount of like, the mental jail that I put myself in, no like, just being on the other side of it, the mental jail that
mhm,
I put myself in, it just feels, like, unnecessary. Like, I don't
yeah,
know what happened there, and it's truly like you really feel stuck. You feel stuck.
yeah,
I don't know if it's just your day to day, you don't have the mental capacity. This is where therapy can help. Like, you
yeah,
don't have the mental capacity to
maybe,
figure out
yeah,
what's next. You're burnt out. I can barely go like barely take a shower versus thinking about,
mhm,
okay, like my calling, what am I gonna do next? Like that's
yeah,
why you have to sometimes I always say if you don't answer your calling, God will make you. Like put an end to it. Lay you off. Something will happen where you're fired. Something usually it's a major change in your life too. Unfortunately, if you lose a significant person in your life,
mhm, that's true.
or if there's a huge you have a layoff, you lost your job. Usually, a huge change happens in your life that really pushes you into this calling, right? So sometimes it's not even you don't even have to do the work to actually answer it. God will do it
Yeah,
for you. That's where we come back to the faith.
yeah,
So, but yeah, in the
so
chaos,
true.
that is when it was most potent to me, and I
Mhm,
remember just taking out actually, I took out a journal, and I was just sitting in silence, and I was like, "Okay, so if I was gonna do this, like, what is it that I was g what skill sets do I have now, right? I wrote down all of my skill sets. Okay, what do
That's
I enjoy
good.
doing? Like, what do I love doing about in my career? Like, what do I
Mhm.
love the most about it? Because there were so many things I
Sure.
did love. Like, what do I not enjoy about it? Like, why
Mhm.
do I feel stuck? Like, what am I afraid of? Like, those are all the things I started to journal down, and I was like, "Okay, if I was gonna help somebody get through this transition, like, what would be the first step that I tell them? Like, okay, what would be the second step? Like, and then I just started mapping out things, like writing it on paper, and then really kinda creating that path, and doing that helped me kinda start going through the motions and, like, figuring out what to do. And the easiest
Mm.
place to start is what you already know how to do. So,
Yeah.
listen, I'm a great I'm a great sales representative, but I have to sell something that I love. So let me just start with helping other people, like teach other people sales, right? Just it starts with something very basic that you already know how to do. And then if you want to go deeper into the work that you do, it could be a part of your work or things that you do out of it. Like it doesn't, everybody's journey is different. But then I started to incorporate, like, okay, these are the things that I'm starting to see. Like, this is what I want to bring into the work that I'm doing with my clients. And then let me create something that I feel is going to be valuable. And it's usually something that you wish you had when you were at this point in your journey.
Yes, that's so important. I mean, writing it down, journaling it, self-reflection, sitting in silence, laying aside that chaos, and I like the way you said, the calling was more vibrant in the chaos. It takes sometimes a traumatic event, losing someone, grief, or something like that, where you start to redefine yourself. And that's what all this is about with this whole joy thing, right? And being
Mhm.
trying to cultivate resilience because it doesn't have to break us down. These things that make us stronger, and we can figure out, okay, in this challenge, what can I learn from this? And a lot of people, like you said,
Mhm.
redefine themselves and actually figure out their calling because of something. And it's kind of like, well, why does it have to take something tragic to happen in order to figure out your calling?
Mhm.
I don't know. Like
Yeah.
any other challenge or resistance in life, that's just how we get stronger and how we learn from something. So, yeah, it's definitely important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanna point out, and this is just through the experiences that I've had, doing the work that I do. If I had everybody first of all, you are always on the right path. I really don't believe that we're on the
Never
wrong
on the
path. You're
wrong.
always on the right path, right?
Mhm.
So wherever you're at is exactly where you're supposed to be at. And I was really obsessed with this notion
I
of trying
love
to figure out
that.
what my purpose was for
Yeah.
so long. And I want people to know also that your purpose could just be to exist. Like you do not to live. So you literally don't have to do anything to be purposeful. Like you being
Oh, I
alive is a
love
purpose
that.
enough.
I love
So you
that.
don't have to, if you feel like, okay, I don't know what it is, everybody seems to be like, oh, you need to figure out my purpose. I literally don't know what my purpose is. Maybe your purpose is just I mean, people depending on where you are at spiritually and the things that you dive into, but if we look at life path numbers, like each of us are on a different life path and maybe you're on a path of just living the life that you're already living and just living and being present, and that is purpose enough. Like you being alive is
Yeah,
purposeful.
because 'cause you're
So you don't
encountering
have to.
people every day
Yes.
and helping them and doing
Yes.
you don't even realize it.
Yes, like, we love to be useful, but, like, utility is doesn't have to be, like, the only thing that you're good for. You could just go through life living a beautiful life, and that's purpose enough. And so I always wanna say, like, I if I could go back, like, something that I would challenge myself on is figure out how to find joy and happiness within yourself wherever you are at that
Everywhere.
moment.
I love that, exactly, because it's a joy is a state of mind. It's not like, "Oh, I'm so happy and giddy all the time." I mean, that's happiness, right? But you can carry joy and peace regardless of what's going on around you, so that's why that's so important. I love that you said that. Ooh, that's good,
Mhm.
because a lot of people feel like you have to be doing something extraordinary, people have to remember you after you die, I have to make a name for myself,
Yeah.
but it's the little things too. I mean, if you think of, like, every branch of a tree, not every branch is seen, not every leaf is seen, but the roots are the ones really
Mhm.
doing the work that you can't even see. So, yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Good, that's good. Well, as we get to the end here, I mean, really, you've talked a lot. I always ask my guests, tell us about your own personal journey to joy. I mean, it seems you've been talking about it the whole time, but anything else on your own personal journey to joy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would up until this point, I would always look for things outside of myself to bring happiness to me.
Mhm.
I mean, it could and even if it was positive, like traveling the world, like that was it's still my passion.
Yeah.
I feel the most alive when I'm traveling, but I had to pivot from escapism to actually
Mm.
traveling for joy and fulfillment, right?
Oh,
Because 'Cause I'm
yeah.
escaping, I'm running away, and I feel it's like
Mhm.
I'm running away from reality, but now that I've reached a grounded place in my career, my business, and my life, and my relationships, it's like I have the joy of being grounded in one place, but also, have this extra passion of
Yeah.
being nomadic and exploring the
Oh,
world, and now I'm
yeah.
doing it from, like, a rooted place
Mhm.
versus escaping, right? So, really just kinda doing the work to figure out how I can be in joy no matter what I'm doing or what I'm experiencing,
Yeah,
and I think that's the most powerful thing is, like, really kinda stripping away all of those different external elements to really, focus on what truly matters, and I'm just at peace, and I'm so grateful.
for
It's not to
sure.
say everything is perfect. It's not to
Yeah,
say everything is
yeah,
perfect, but it's to say,
definitely not.
the way that you navigate things, yeah, you have a different understanding. You look at it from a different lens, and so
Yeah, and I
yeah.
speak joy all the time, but I don't always have a smile on this face, but
Yeah.
I do know how to get back to joy,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah.
So we can find you at Bianca Ariel MBA. You said LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's not so people can come to you, obviously high achievers, especially physicians, to get help when they want to pivot.
Yes. Yes. So, I'm the creator of the Recalibrated Career Academy. So we help high earning professionals transition their expertise into aligned careers and businesses. So what we do is we take the time to kind of uncover the direction that you're looking to go in. What is it that you're looking to do next? And then we put you into either a
Awesome.
career cohort that offers the implementation and the execution through strategic guidance and support, or the business cohort that offers business strategy and coaching to help you really launch your business. So the outcome of the program is either you transition into a new career, you receive your offer letter ready to go, or you actually acquire your first client, or you make your first sale in your business. So it's a very long-term program, but we start with just one strategy session to really get started and see if it's a fit. I work majority with physicians and other healthcare visionaries. That's my background. And then also we have the physician podcast concierge, where we
Hey.
work with physicians who are looking to increase their visibility.
Ah.
It's a full concierge done for you production service to really map out the strategy for your podcast and then offer the production services so you can focus on doing what you love most. Very selective though, because that is a very high touch program.
Ooh, okay. And earlier, right before we were live, you said you don't have a book yet. Is that you predicting it, putting it out there, or are you working on a book?
Yes. So I am working on a book,
Hey.
and I it's kind of like one of those things that's like like, are you really ever ready to put out a book, right? Because you feel like there's
No,
gonna be
let's
so
do
many
it.
things that part. But I definitely am reflecting and would like to take a season where I'm in flow and kind of putting some thoughts on paper. So yes, I am working on a book.
That is awesome. Well, people need to look out for it and find you, Bianca Ariel, MBA. And we were talking all this time about purpose and vision, passion, and calling. And so the Enjoino, it has a section on purpose, the five crucial health areas: mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social. And it helps you have therapeutic prompts, self-care tips, all kinds of things to help you be able to figure out what your purpose is, but first navigating through that mental health, then physical health, then financial health, because as you said earlier, a lot of times we got so much going on, how can we focus on our purpose if our mental health
Yeah.
is is jacked up, if our physical health, we're unhealthy, or if our finances aren't in order. So you gotta go through those sections first. And because it is February with the Love Month, I do have it on sale. The Enjoynal's on sale for $30. The Joy Bundle with the Enjoynal plus the Inspire Joy for Wife, Mom, Boss is on sale for $35. So get your Joy Bundle at drenjoylife.com. Thank you so much, Bianca, for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much, doctor. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Hang on after the outro. This has been an Enjoy Life production. If you're in a crisis, don't hesitate. Call, text, or chat 988 for immediate support. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional treatment. If you're looking for therapy or medication management through Enjoy Life, visit www.drenjoylife.com to request a consultation. I'm licensed in 13 states. I accept Aetna in Georgia, Florida, and Virginia. Be sure to grab your copy of the Enjoyno to help you on your wellness journey. Also check out Inspire Joy for the wife, mom, boss to help you balance it all without losing yourself. Better yet, get the full Joy Bundle for just $45. Remember, Journey to Joy Live is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, may you continue to transform stress into joy.